Progress and Urban View. Good morning, Joe. How are you, man?
I'm doing fine, man.
This is historic. We doing this together.
Okay.
and I like it. We should do it more often. But
we'll try to hook it up.
This is outstanding. Congratulations to Sherry. We love and we're praying for her and Daryl and the whole team down there, Sam. But congratulations to you because you are the subject of PBS's Finding Your Roots tonight, correct?
Yeah. Let me tell you, this is their 5th. Am I right, Sherry? And I'll ask her to jump on the mic too. But this is their 5th season, and so it was 5 years ago that Professor Gates. And you'll hear me refer to him as Skip because we all love him. He is a national treasure. And he said, I've got this new episode starting on PBS. Would you be willing to be one of my subjects? And what we're doing is genealogy. We're gonna look at. They started off looking at African Americans and doing the swab test, and then they would break down what part of the globe your ancestors came from, and then they expanded into following the paper trail of your family, of your roots. And then what happened, it became so popular, what Professor Gates told us was then a lot of his white friends said, wait a minute, what about us? Include us in on this too, because it's fascinating, and it is just grown. It is one of the best shows on PBS. So I'm kind of making fun of our interaction with each other, Mark, with Professor Gates, because he would often. I'd see him when I'd come up to New York to see you or, do something up at Sirius. I'd see him at in the train station at Penn, and he'd avoid me. I mean, he'd go the other way. And he said, because it's I was afraid Joe would keep asking me, when is this thing going to air? When is this going to air? And he said, man, it takes time.
Yeah.
It took 5 years to put this together.
Wow.
And it gets better as the genealogy base grows.
Yes, because as you know,
get more information.
Yeah, because they'll find this grave site, they'll find people will keep adding to it, and that's why a lot of this was such a surprise. So it'll be tonight, 8:00.
And there's a big surprise for you.
Let me tell you what, and it's no longer a surprise. You'll get to see the reaction because we've been doing promo tours. Sherry was as surprised, I think, because she was there. It was a 4-hour taping.
Yes.
About 4 to 5 hour taping that we had to do. But what happened, Mark, was I got this call a few months ago on a Saturday morning, and it was Professor Gates. And he said, Joe, I've got good news and bad news.
Okay.
The good news is we're finished, and we're gonna and you'll be in this year's episode. Matter of fact, it'll be the last episode of the season. But the bad news is, this is the most difficult thing I've had to say to anyone that I've ever done this Finding Your Roots. He said, your father, Felix Madison, whose name is on my birth certificate, is not your father. I said, what? He said, no, he's not your father. He said, we acquired the services of C.C. Moore, who everyone knows. Sherry will tell you, one of the nation's foremost
forensic
genealogists.
Wow.
She searches and tracks down criminals.
She tracked down you remember the rapist?
Yeah, her technique was used.
Yeah, to find him. I think for 30 years he'd been on the run.
The San Francisco.
Yeah, yeah. And we hired her. And just as we were ready to wrap this up, she did your genealogy and found out that he couldn't have been your biological father.
Wow.
And so he said to me, and he said, look, we spent a lot of money, a lot of time. He implied this. If you don't want to do this episode, if you want to bow out, I will understand. Mm-hmm. I thought that was, quite honestly, Mark, I thought that was really decent of him.
Of course.
To do that, because they spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
So the natural questions is, then who was he? Mm-hmm. And found out, not only who he was, and then I got to tell you something else I found out. I had 2 brothers that I didn't know, 2 half-brothers. And we didn't know each other. They didn't know each other, never met. And they're going to you'll see where they brought the 3 of us together.
Wow.
Here in Washington, D.C., and none of us knew about the other. That's what they've been promoting. But I got to tell you what really hit me harder than anything was the grandfather was my grandfather from Alabama, and they had his medical records, was part of the Tuskegee Experiment.
Is that right?
Yes, was part of the Tuskegee Experiment. And Professor Gates actually showed me his medical records where he was, and they wrote this on his medical records. They discarded him. Not dismiss, discarded. And the reason they discarded him was because the doctors said he didn't have Negro features. Wow. And no one would believe he was a Negro.
Wow.
Now, I got to tell you, that brought me to tears. I don't know what happened with the biological father. And Felix Madison will always be my father. People ask that question all the time, but he will always be he's the man who showed up at my graduation, my wedding. He's the man that was there for a housewarming present and we spent summers with him. He lived in Flint, Michigan. And I've got cousins now. Yeah. One of them just called me and said, we'll always be cousins,
So this man who was your real biological father, you never knew about him, never met
Nope.
him, never
Nope.
heard hide nor hair about him?
Nope. Didn't even know he existed. Matter of fact, the one half-brother is from Dayton, Ohio, where we grew up. He's from Dayton. We went to the same elementary and high school together.
And didn't even know that you were half-brothers?
Nope. He said, we knew of Joe Madison. Uh-huh. We knew of him because, I played sports and that type of thing. We knew him and we ran in the same circles. Same circles, man. Walked the same hallways in high school and elementary school. And never, matter of fact, when they brought us together to tape I don't guess we can't call it a reunion because we didn't meet, but when he brought us together, the older brother started showing photographs of all my running buddies.
Wow.
And they had to stop the taping, right, Sherry? They
said, you guys are having too much
y'all
fun.
Having too much
about reuniting and who you know versus finding your roots.
Wait a minute. Talk about the old man.
Right, that's what they want to know. So obviously your biological father was from Dayton.
Yes,
too.
Yes. Yeah.
And so nobody in your family or extended family, or I should ask it this way, did anybody else recall him like, hey, well, I saw this dude around or knew him somewhere? I mean, was there any social connection
no.
in a family? Really?
No. Now, with the younger brother, there was Kip.
Okay.
He's in Los Angeles. So this is what happened. Now, this is what they said. Kip tells this story. He lived in the same neighborhood, and they worked together.
Wow.
Kip, the younger brother, comes home, tells his mother that, boy, Mr. Haygood is really taking a liking to me. And he wants me to work with him, and because he owned property and that type of thing, and he wants me to work with him, and help him with his apartments and all that. He's really treating me like a son. And his mother said, you are his son. That's how he found out.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So all the relatives and stuff, Mark, might be coming out after they see this episode tonight. Because, see, most folks and in the community and stuff, what you're asking, do folks who knew maybe both of you now get to talk among each other and talk to Joe?
But they took us back. He followed our paper trail before the Revolutionary War to a village in Germany, Antigua that was the other story. One great-great-grand, forget it, I can't remember all these different generations, but one great-great-grandfather escaped from slavery on my maternal grandmother's side.
Okay.
From Virginia, I think Chesterfield, Virginia, wanted to fight in the American Revolution with George Washington. Washington would not accept slaves because, he, as you know the history better than I do.
Okay.
So what he decided to do was to go fight for the British because the King of England said, if you come fight with us, we'll give you your freedom. So after the Revolutionary War, what happened was, and you'll find this out in the story, Washington said they called them loyalists. All the African American loyalists had to leave the country. So you know where they ended up?
Where?
Nova Scotia.
And okay.
And I'll just
so that's where that great grandfather ended up.
Well, I guess you'll have to tune in.
This is quite a story.
That's on one side, and then on my mother, grandfather's side, my grandfather's mother raised 6 children, widowed, and owned her property, I think acres and acres of property in Mississippi. I mean, they're all over the place. It was fascinating. I don't know, Sherry.
I'm fascinated.
Yeah, so I'm just, and Skip is just a national treasure. Yeah. I mean, this man, what he does is amazing. And I guess the lesson here is, we're all mixed up, man.
Oh, yeah.
We really are.
No question about it.
We really are.
It's everybody is, crosses over. And that's why some people joke, we talk about reparations. Yeah. Some folk are like, well, wait a minute, if you start doing that, a whole lot of folk, because when the guy came over from Oxford, he did DNA USA, Brian Sykes, I was one of his subjects.
Yeah.
And what he did, he looked at the DNA of people, of whites in the Northeast and whites in the South. And he said only whites in the Northeast had DNA that was purely European, but whites in the South had a whole lot of black mixed up in it too.
Yeah.
And folk got mad at him and ran him out the country because they weren't ready to hear that. Yeah. But then we started talking about reparations, they'll probably embrace it. But
well, let me thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate you, man.
To simulcast and again, it'll be 8:00 tonight, yes. Tuesday night, and then tomorrow we're gonna get, we'll maybe talking to. It'll be PBS, so I appreciate it, and Sherry's giving me this wrap it up thing.
I know. With Sherry, we love you. But listen, congratulations, folks.
Thank you.
8 Eastern, 7 Central. First ever simulcast between Make It Plain and Madison, the Black Eagle on Urban View and SiriusXM Progress. Joe, congratulations. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Love you guys.
Talk to you later.
That's wonderful. This is wonderful. 866-99 Sirius. What a great story.